Welcome to today's webinar. What I'm going to be going through today is all of our latest developments. The main focus of our developments has been data entry improvements. So the idea is we're trying to save time where we can. So most of the stuff that we go through today is going to be related to data entry. Not all of it is. There are some other ones which I will take you through. But as I said, the most part we're going to be doing data entry stuff. Now, there are parts of this where I'm going to be on our demo, on our staging site, just because there's a couple of things that are about to go live that perhaps aren't quite there yet, but they will in the next couple of days. So I'll be very clear about what's currently live and what isn't. So as a general rule, if I'm going through it, it's probably live. I'll be very specific about the stuff that isn't. So to start off, first of all, in early years, this is not currently live, but will be very soon. The same way Key Stage 1 and 2 have a set of subheadings in their menu, which is split into data entry, cohort analysis, and school analysis. On the way is the same breakdown, albeit one's for data entry, one's for analysis. So slightly less, but we've still put the subheadings in just to make it a little bit easier to navigate now that there's getting more and more early years pages available. Okay, and you'll also notice, and now this is live currently, that the page names have changed. So instead of enter pupil results, that page is now called summative assessment. That is the same in Key Stage 1 and 2. That page is now called summative assessment because that is where the summative assessment data goes. You will also notice that there is a page called formative assessment underneath. So we've got it there for Key Stage 1 and 2. We've got it there for early years. Basically, that is where all of the full assign objective ticking has been moved to. So it's a much more efficient way of putting that data in, which we're going to come to shortly. But just so we're clear, the page names have changed. The menu in early years has been tidied up slightly or is about to be. Okay, so in terms of data entry, there has been one ever so small tweak in the summative assessment, which is in each individual subject. So what we now have, if I just pull my data up here, let's look at the end of the year. Previously, you could only use our SEN/EYFS column once for the whole subject. So if you put data in there, it is applied to the overall reading result. It used to skip out any different units of study that you might have turned on. If I have a look at my maths, I might have a couple more. Again, so if I just get rid of this data, historically, you could only use the SEN/EYFS column for the subject as a whole. Now, what you will notice when you click on number and place value, you may not even notice it. It's very, very small, but at the top, you have this little toggle button. The standard setup is your normal iTRACK bands. The below national curriculum switch, if you flick it across, gives you all of the different below options that exist for pre-key stage standards, early years, and ISEND if you're using that. Basically, it is now all of the options that were in that SEN/EYFS column. They are now enterable on a per unit basis. So you flick it across at the top, you can enter the data in there. The same goes for the overall result. So we can go in there and we can actually put in those below options in there as well. So that's a little quick change that we've made to just allow those below options to be done on a per unit basis. Eventually that column will go because it's essentially been made redundant. So that's one little tweak. The next one's a big one, which is for entering summative data, and that is on your subject list. All of those subjects look the same as they always have, apart from that little tweak. What you also now have is this multi-subject option. This is where things get really, really quick. Now, the important thing to state before we look at it is if you have any of these units turned on, so in this case, number and place value, etc., you cannot enter the data for those areas in multi-subject because it sort of defeats the whole point. There would be too many columns of data. So the only available results you can put in on multi-subject are those three. So test scores, our effort or free text column, whatever you've got that for, if you've even got it, and the overall result column. So if you don't use those at all, this will be great. If you do use those, it's not going to be quite so good. But it might be that you don't have any of those areas turned on in the non-core subjects. So it might be a quicker way of doing those. So if I pull up multi-subject and press go, you will see what you get is a little pop-up there, purple button, click show subjects, and I can now go in and select whichever subjects I want to do at the same time. So I could go and select all the core subjects, for example, or in this case, I could do perhaps all of my non-core subjects in one go. So you press go, and you're going to get all of those subjects on one page. Let me try and do my year fours because I think theirs is empty. But you'll see there now, you get all of those columns on there. It's not empty, so I'm just going to remove it, so bear with me. But that does show you how quick this can be. So by default, you will get just the one column, the overall result column, that you can put data in for as normal. Like that. All the usual options apply, so you get access to every year group, etc. But you'll see above the table there are little toggle buttons. So if you have effort grades and test scores to put in, they can also be put in at the same time. Now, where this gets quick, and I'll just hide those so it's easier to see, where this gets quick is quite often we find that you might have multiple children who are expected in a particular subject. So you can do all your flood filling vertically. But what you can also do your flood filling is horizontally as well using the apply to all subjects button. So what we often find is you might have a child who's expected across the board in all the areas apart from their exceptional at PE, for example. So I could flood fill Sam's data in as expected across the board. Let's do that as a year 4. Deselect that button and just tweak PE if we needed to. Or I could do a couple of children across the board and maybe put them in as working towards, like that. Or if it was even quicker, if most of the children are expected, or over half your data is expected, tick that one, tick multiple children. In this case, I'm going to do all children. I can go expected across the board in all areas like that. And I can then deselect those, deselect that, and tweak backwards where I need to. But you'll see that's a much, much quicker way of inputting data. The same flood filling options are available for effort grades and test scores as well. So for example, if you use our report writer and you wanted to have an effort grade with all your other subjects in there, like that, have an extra column for your effort grade, but you don't want to have to fill out all the effort for all the children for every subject, because that's going to be quite a lot. The same flood filling options apply. So if I know Celine's put good effort in across the board, I can flood fill that across the board and then maybe change PE because she doesn't like it and she needs to improve, for example. But now I've just done a load of effort data in one go. Or you could go through and tick all of your good ones off and do it across the board for everyone. So in a couple of clicks, we've got all the data done. So hopefully that makes some sense. That's the change that we've made to the summative data. It's only there obviously for Key Stage 1 and 2 because Foundation Stage already have the overall option in there. We've basically replicated what we can do in early years for the rest of school. So hopefully that makes some sense. The next change is full assign. So where has full assign gone? Some of you may have noticed that when you're on reading, for example, you don't have access to band assign and full assign anymore. That is because the place that you go to do the full assign ticking objectives, if you're into that sort of thing, is now done in the formative assessment page. That formative assessment page is in the data entry section. It's underneath summative assessment. If you click on it, you get the usual criteria to put in. I'll do my year fours in reading, and you will see the formative assessment stuff is now in grid format. Now, initially, the grid's not going to show you an awful lot, but every unit of study, if you click on it, the objectives are in there. So instead of having to go into every individual child and tick objectives off, now I can go in here and do things. Now, there are two ways that you can have this. So my account is currently set up to grade particular statements, and it will give me a color code. You can also have it, which is the iTRACK default, where all you do is select a statement to say they can do it. If you want to grade the statements like I'm doing, what you'll have to do is any school administrator will have to go into the administration tab, go to school settings, go to key stage 1 and 2, and there is this preference here. Yours will probably be defaulted to be just the tick box because that's what iTRACK used to be. If you want to add the new functionality of grading statements, you just need to change that so that it's the enable one and press save down there. What that means is when you then come to the formative assessment page, instead of just ticking an objective, it's going to let you grade it. Okay. So then the first thing before you even start anything, there is a report preferences button on this page because there are certain things that different users might want when they're doing this sort of stuff. So you go on report preferences, you'll see there's a few different things that I can just tweak. The first one where it says statements is code. I can see that the statements are viewable either in code format, so you can see there is 4A, 4B, 4C, etc. But if you hover over it, it tells you more about it. Or I can change that to text and have the actual statement written out. So those are per user. So generally, you probably want it with the text, so just make sure when whoever's going on this page, they change it to text. The other three, so if we work from the bottom, test score is the ability to put the test score data in. This is essentially the same as what's on the summative page. The effort, so if you have the effort grade turned on, you can also put it in here. So the idea is if you are using the formative assessment page, you don't actually ever need to use the summative assessment page at all. This can just be where you do all your data in one go. It's just the formative side, the ticking objectives is easier to do this way. The last one is a new functionality, iTRACK recommendation. I'll go through this in a minute. It's not quite ready to go live. It should be in the next week or so. So I'll talk you through that one in a second. The idea is, as I've already shown, you just click and you can grade your different statements. Just like you can enter data on every other page, very similar. Now, there are all the same flood filling options. So down the left, you can flood fill multiple statements for a child. If you want to deselect them all afterwards, you use the button at the top there. Select all, deselect all, a bit like on the other page. And what you can also do is multiple children at the same time as well, like that. You can deselect them afterwards too. Or you can do multiple children for multiple objectives at the same time, like that. Again, you'll just have to deselect them afterwards if you are flood filling. That bit's really important. Okay, now iTRACK recommendation. So what that is doing, you'll see there is a row here where it's kind of giving you a little bit of information. So what it's calculating is the average of all of the different statement grades. And if you hover over it, it kind of tells you what it's recommending to do. So it's recommending, based on all of this stuff, because there's a gap in the learning, it wants to put the child in as a working towards plus. If you like that average, you can fill out your summative by just clicking on it and pressing OK. It will put the overall reading comprehension in for you. The same goes for reading word. If you start doing reading word statements, we can do that as well. Okay. Now, the idea of this is what you don't want to have to do is click each one in all the time, because that's no quicker than doing the other data entry page. So the idea of this is once you've done all of your different objectives, what you may wish to do is import them all in one go. So if you quite like the look of what these are doing and you want to just quickly import all of iTRACK's recommendations, because you like most of it, maybe there's a bit you want to tweak, where it actually says iTRACK recommendation, if you click there and press OK, you'll see it's imported all of those recommendations into my data for me. So that's the summative now done in one button, unless maybe we need to tweak some of it. So you can always, of course, overwrite it if you want to. So it can always be overridden, and you'll see when you start putting your data in, your overall reading, as mine has up here, is going to start calculating for you automatically based on the same average of the different areas underneath. If you disagree with it, you can overwrite it. Okay. So that's the new way of doing formative stuff. At the top of the page up here, so if you have children, say in year 4, who are accessing the curriculum below, you can change the year group to a year below, and it'll bring up the previous year groups statements, so you can start showing whether they've attained or not on the curriculum for a year behind. And of course, you've got your effort and your test score rows that you might then want to go and put that data in at the same time. And that's kind of all of that data is now done for that subject, all on one nice grid, which is exportable. Hit the export button in the purple header. That'll put it all onto a document for you on Excel. Okay, there are no instructions to this currently. I'm in the process of writing them. They will be done by the end of the week, so please bear with me on that. These things take time. So they're on their way. That's the formative side that we've made some big changes to. Hopefully some real time savers in there as well. The same functionality is now also live in early years. So in the data entry section, you have a formative assessment section again in here. All the same principles. You can have all your different areas of learning on one page. When you expand them, all the curriculum is in there. They can go and tick off as and when they've got the different statements. In early years, the language that's used is met and not met as part of the statutory guidance. So in early years, it is just a tick box to say they've got it or they haven't. But all the other principles that you've seen, all the flood filling, etc., entering your summative data, all be done at the same time. And of course, you have your percentages attained per statement there. You also have your percentages per child underneath. So early years have got the same thing. And then the last one that's related to data entry is what we've called continuous assessments. Now, this is particularly handy for schools that do things. Hopefully you should now be able to see PowerPoint. If you can't, somebody please let me know. Sometimes Zoom's a little bit funny. Particularly for schools who do things this way, where the children are kind of on track to be expected. What you might find is that you put your autumn data in, and generally speaking, spring's data looks fairly similar, apart from you might have a couple of children who have changed. Some have made accelerated progress and some haven't, and so you need to tweak a little bit of it. But apart from the tweaking, it looks fairly similar. And previously in iTRACK, every term was a brand new data drop. So it's blank, you put your data in, you log in spring, it's blank again, you put your data in, etc. What we can now do is have autumn's data projected forward into spring. So when you come to put spring's data in, all you've got to do is make the tweaks to autumn's data that you need to. And then same again for the end of the year. I can have spring's data pull through into the end of the year, make the tweaks that we need to. Or, for example, maybe you don't do things this way, but you do White Rose maths, and you only teach number and place value in autumn, but you want to see that data in the other terms because you're not going to cover it again until you recap it at the end of the year, or maybe you don't even cover it again at all. So we could just for number and place value, if we wanted to project that piece of data forward, we can do it on any level. So if you want to project a piece of data forward, this is done in the editing subjects section. So in the manage library sections, this is live now as we speak. So if I went to maths, for example, you will notice this is done on a per area basis. So if I went to number and place value, let's say we teach number and place value in years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, but we only ever do it in autumn's term. So I want to project that piece of data forward. I can edit number and place value. All this stuff here was always there. You can choose which year groups, etc. This is the new bit here, continuous assessment. If that says no, it means every term you log in, you get a blank data point to store a fresh piece of data. It will obviously then plot them over time. So essentially, if you have set your account up 3-termly, it's 3 fresh data drops a year. If I change that to a yes and press save, you'll see this little kind of squiggly arrow has appeared next to it. That means whatever I put in autumn will automatically be added to spring and the end of the year for me. And you can adjust it as you go if you need to. So when I go to data entry, summative assessment, let's just say we'll do my year 4s and we'll do autumn in, let's say, maths. Let's just say, let's put some fresh data in. I'm going to put that in as greater depth. Now, that number and place value only, when I log in spring, will also be appearing in spring. You can see it's now changed the spring data to greater depth. If I then in spring change that, put it back down to expected, when I log in at the end of the year, number and place value will be whatever that value was last time. So in this case, if that was blank, it would have projected it forward. So let's try that again. It's because my account's already got loads of data in it. If we set that, it will then project it forward for me into the end of the year. Like that. Okay, you can do that for every area, no area, pick and choose for some. It is a little bit fiddly because obviously for every area, you'd have to turn each of them on for everything. We've done it that way because you might want it for some and not others. So after that little bit of work is done, once you press save, once we've done all the areas, it's done. So if you want help with setting that up, contact myself, or if Vicky's your account manager, contact Vicky. I'm sure she'll be as happy as I am to give you a hand with that. So that's everything for data entry. There's 2 more things. One's live, one isn't. We'll do the live one first. Import pupils. The wand button has changed. So there is now a run wand pre-import check. I can't press the button now because my wand isn't attached to a real school, but because wand had caused a couple of people some troubles, if you click the run wand import check, it's just going to highlight to you what wand's going to do if you continue with it. It will give you a list of all the little tweaks it's going to make. Don't be alarmed if your pupil number seems higher than you think it is, because our total pupil number will contain all of your levers that you've ever had. So don't be alarmed if you see a bigger number than you actually expect. It will then pop up with a button and say, do you wish to continue? You press continue. So it's an extra click now, but it is a little pre-import check just to check if there was anything wrong with the import first time round. So that's that one. And then the last development, which is imminent, we're talking next couple of days, next week or so, which is why I'm still on my staging account, is some improvements to the school tracking page. So we're trying to make tracking the whole school better for head teachers or SLTs. First of all, the drop downs have changed. They've been tidied up. So currently on school analysis, on school tracking, sorry, there's lots of drop down boxes. It's a little bit of a mess. What we're doing is tidying it up. So you've just got pick a point A. I will look at, say, autumn, pick a point B. I'll look at last year's spring. And you now have a floor standard button, depending on the data, depending on your school setup and your preferences, etc. Pick the appropriate floor standard. That top table has not changed, other than it now fits the width of the page. It's not quite as cramped as it used to be. Shows you point A, point B, the difference between the two. So we can see we've got more children here, expected plus, more children here, expected plus. Great. What we've added underneath is the same calculation for an expected or better. What that calculation is actually doing is the floor standard or better. So we can see expected or better, we've actually got across school 12% more between autumn and spring. So we've added that set of columns, if you like. Everything for expected or better is new. What else is coming is at the top, you also will have a matrix view. So this display option strip will be new. There will be a way of viewing that as a matrix. All of the pupil pop-ups work on here, but what they don't show you is who has actually moved in and out. You know, that 25% improvement in expected could be good if we've got them from the working towards side. It could actually be bad if they've come from the expected plus side. So we can't actually color code the plus percentages because it wouldn't really be accurate enough. You know, the working towards going down, that's great if they've moved up, but it's not great if they've moved down. So to get around that, we've gone into a little bit more detail with you. On the matrix view, if you click it, you will see a grid full of lots of colours. So you'll see all the children in green are the ones who were exactly where they should be based on the previous point. So they were all working towards at point A. They're also working towards at point B. But Tristan was working towards plus at point A and is now working towards plus at point B. So he's darker green because he's gained a bit. Timothy's gained a lot because he's in the darker green, opposite for the reds. So anyone who's fallen away behind will be in the reds. And that's broken down for every year group for you. So we can start to see who precisely is doing better and worse. That's going to be really useful. Be with you soon. Hopefully that's all made some sense. I am going to finish the recording there. Thanks for your time.